Welcome to the Retirement Made Easy podcast, a show created to be your go-to source for straightforward retirement advice. Best of all, it is presented in a language that you can understand. Here's your host, certified financial planner, Greg Gonzalez.
Hey, welcome to the Retirement Made Easy podcast. I'm Greg Gonzalez. Thanks for joining me today. This is episode number 198. We're going to talk all about 401ks on this episode. We probably don't talk enough about 401ks and their impact on your overall retirement plan, but we're going to talk about the ins and outs of 401ks and how to get the most out of them. And in order to do so, we really need to understand what 401ks are, how they work, and all the different, characteristics that a lot of people overlook or just maybe they're not aware of when it comes to 401ks. So that's going to be the hot topic on today's episode of the Retirement Made Easy podcast. If you're a new listener of the podcast, welcome. There are 197 previous episodes you can enjoy. And our promise to you is we try to keep retirement planning in a language that you can understand. We don't use jargon or confusing terms that's going to go way over your head. We keep it in a language that you can understand because Einstein once said, if you can't explain something simply to a 6-year-old, you don't really understand it yourself. So that's what we're going to do and continue to do on the Retirement Made Easy podcast. We make everything available for free. So we have a YouTube channel called Retirement Made Easy. There's a lot of instructional videos you can enjoy and learn from. And YouTube is 100% totally free. There's a link in the show notes. And then we have resources that we make available on our website, retirestrongfa.com. Click on the resources tab, and you can download our retirement secret sauce, our guide to Social Security planning, our women's guide to retirement, as well as our 2025 tax guide. We actually had a listener that printed that out and laminated it, which was pretty cool. So check it out on our website, retirestrongfa.com. There's a link in the show notes. And if you're one of those people that is wanting to get serious with your retirement planning and you want to speak with a fiduciary financial planner, our firm, Retire Strong Financial Advisors, is accepting new clients between now and the end of the year. So you can click the Get Started button and we will get in contact with you that way. All right, let's jump into today's episode talking about 401ks, how they're going to impact you. If you're participating in a current 401k, maybe you're going to hear some information that you're not aware of. And what's really neat about this podcast is oftentimes somebody will hear something and they'll immediately think of maybe a family member or a friend that could benefit from the podcast, and it ends up getting forwarded to multiple people because I think deep down we all want to help each other. And if information is discussed or advice is presented that can benefit someone else, it's worth sharing because it's going to put somebody else in a better situation. So we've talked about 401ks a lot on the Retirement Made Easy podcast, but probably not enough as we should. Now, every 401k is different. I even did a YouTube video, the Retirement Made Easy YouTube channel, 5 things you must know about 401ks. We're going to talk about that on today's episode, plus more. So we will get into a lot, believe me. First off, if you have some 401ks, maybe from some previous employers that maybe you haven't tracked down or you know they may be outstanding, there is, as a result of the Secure Act 2.0, there's a government website you can go to. It's kind of like a lost and found directory. I've mentioned this on previous episodes. It's at lostandfound.dol.gov. And when you go there, it'll ask you to identify yourself. You'll need photo ID, social security number, date of birth, that kind of stuff. But essentially, you're able to search for lost and found 401k or what they call defined contribution or defined benefit plans that you may have out there that you've forgotten about. Now, defined benefit just means an old pension plan that you might have. And it might be a small amount of money. We had one client that was able to find an old 401k that was about $10,000. But hey, is that worth finding? I think so. They remembered they weren't at the company that long. They weren't getting the match and participating in the plan that long, But the money did compound and grow over the years within that 401k. And hey, they were approaching retirement and were able to find an old 401k that was forgotten about. Now, here's a question that I get over and over again. It's, when I retire, should I leave money in the 401k or should I roll it to a rollover IRA or a Roth IRA if you had Roth dollars in the 401k? And of course, it's a personal decision. But there's a lot of reasons to roll out of the 401k, and there's other reasons to keep your money in the 401k. So I wanted to talk about that first. So one of the benefits to some 401ks is the cost can be fairly low, which is a good thing, right? Costs being low, you could make an argument that is a good thing as long as there's quality investment choices and you're happy with the plan. And every 401k is different. For example, you look at these different companies that have 401ks, and whether it's your company or like here in St. Louis, we run into a lot of people that work at Boeing or MasterCard or an electric company called Ameren or Emerson Electric. And of course, we have clients outside of St. Louis and over 20 states now. So we see kind of a mix, some quality 401ks, some okay 401ks, and some below average 401ks. They're not all built the same. For example, there's one company here in St. Louis that the 401k provider has changed 3 times in the last 5 years. It's gone from Fidelity to Vanguard and now is with Empower. So that's one of the considerations is if you do retire and leave your money in the 401k, the provider may change. You might be retired for a couple years and it moves from Fidelity to Vanguard or from Vanguard to another company, and you have no say in that. The other thing is your investment choices within the plan, if it changes hands, those will likely change, and that's out of our control. And that would be a disadvantage, is if the plan can change providers or change hands, and that dictates what investment choices are available to you. In my eyes, that's a strike, right? That's a disadvantage of the overall plan because we like to be in control of our destiny, of our financial decisions. So if you have no control over who the 401k provider or the custodian of your life savings is, that's a disadvantage in my book. The other thing, when it comes time to take withdrawals or distributions from the 401k, generally speaking, there is a 20% mandatory federal tax withholding. So let's say your average tax rate was 10% or 12%, and they're making you withhold 20% federal income taxes. Well, then you might end up with a big tax refund. So you could argue that that might be a big disadvantage if they don't allow you the flexibility to determine what your tax withholding is on your distributions from your 401k or the withdrawals from your 401k. Now, I had mentioned for a second that there's some very, very quality 401ks that we see or above average 401ks. In my eyes, what a good 401k looks like. It has investment freedom, so very high quality investment choices, or maybe they offer a brokerage option where you can literally pick from a slew of different choices, almost unlimited different investment options within the brokerage feature of the 401k. Now, not all 401ks offer that, but if yours does, it's worth checking into. The other thing that makes a 401k very high quality is what you pay for and what you get. So if the costs are very, very low and you've got very good investment choices and the ability to really, really customize your investment strategy, well, that's always a good thing. The other thing is the rules within the 401k. So some 401ks allow you to do what's called Roth conversions. So picture paying taxes on the pre-tax 401k bucket and moving those dollars over to the Roth 401k side of the equation. Still in the same account, but under the Roth bucket. And why would you want to do that? Well, the benefit of the Roth dollars is they grow tax-free for the rest of your life. So you might be in a situation where even if you're still working, you can do Roth conversions, or after you retire, maybe it's a situation where you want to do Roth 401k conversions and move some of those pre-tax dollars over to the Roth side. Now, depending on your age and depending on the rules within the 401k, they may or may not allow those. So if they don't allow Roth conversions, that's a big, big disadvantage of some 401ks. So you have to really check with the rules of your specific 401k to see if it's something they allow. And on top of that, what is the mandatory tax withholding of those Roth conversions? Because maybe they're going to require that you withhold 20% on that Roth conversions. That might not be such a good deal. Every 401k is different, believe me. Some 401ks offer a very good match, and we'll talk about the match here in a second. Other 401ks offer no match. It's really up to the employer on what they offer as far as a matching contribution. So what we mean by match, if you're not familiar, let's say you make $100,000 and your company offers a 4% dollar for dollar match. So that means you make $100,000 as your salary. So if you contribute 4%, your company will match those contributions with 4%. So you would put in $4,000, your company matches with $4,000, and throughout the year, $8,000 or 8% of your pay has been contributed to the 401k. Now you may ask, how does a company afford to do that? They use this match oftentimes as an incentive to stick with the company. So there will be what's called a vesting schedule. And on your 401k statement, you'll see you are 100% vested. And so a vesting schedule is determined by the company, and it might be a 5-year vest. So what that means is 20% for every year that you're with the company. So for example, if you were to leave the company in the second year, you would only be 40% vested. And therefore, if the dollars that were matched and given to you, you could only take 40% of those. But if you left the company or retired after the 5th year, all of those dollars that were matched, the employer matched, they're all yours now. So really, you want to be 100% vested because all the match dollars become yours at that point. So some people will actually wait until a job anniversary year or a year in which they're fully vested in the 401k before they leave a job or they retire, because you're really leaving some money on the table, but you have to really determine what's going to be in your best interest. And if you happen to leave some money on the table for not being fully vested, but it's going to put you in a better situation in your life and financially speaking, well, so be it. We don't want to step over dollars to pick up quarters. It just doesn't make sense. And I think that saying, stepping over dollars to pick up quarters, is so true in so many different aspects of retirement planning. Oftentimes people will hang on one more year and delay retirement, but you've got to take a step back and say, in the scheme of things, is working one more year really going to move the needle in your favor or not? Does it really increase your odds of long-term success by working an additional 12 months? And that's the decision you've got to make. And that's what we do at our firm. We do customized retirement plans for people. And it's kind of shocking when some people see a 30-year retirement and they say, gosh, if I just work one more year, it really doesn't move the needle. Or if I delay my Social Security by 6 months, it doesn't really do a whole lot here. And for other people, it'll make the world of difference. For some people, they might want to work part-time in retirement and semi-retire, and the income they bring in is really a game changer. So it really kind of depends. But getting back to our 401k discussion, with the vesting schedule, you want to look to see, are you fully vested? So if you were to retire or leave the job, how much of those match dollars are really yours? And if you're not fully vested, how much would you forfeit should you retire or leave the company? Now, the money that you put in is always going to be yours. Those employee contributions are always yours. but the vested amount, that's what the employer has contributed, and that's what may be reduced depending on your tenure with the company. Now, the other thing that's unique to some 401ks is profit sharing. So some companies may not have any match, and so they don't have any required match. So if the company has a down year or they're not very profitable, whatever the case may be, the company is not on the hook to contribute and have an employer contribution to your 401k. Rather, they might have a profit sharing arrangement where if the company does well financially speaking and they hit certain metrics, they might contribute with the profit sharing. And I have had quite a few clients over the years that when you look at how much of the profit sharing went in from the employer side, it was much, much better than any match would have been. So really it comes down to the performance and the growth and the financial strength of the employer. That really dictates how much money is going to be going into the profit sharing side. Now, some companies do have a match and they also have profit sharing on top of that, but the profit sharing is never promised. So many people ask me, what's a decent match? It really kind of depends. I've seen pathetic matches. I've seen no match. I've seen the best match I've ever seen was Microsoft. They matched dollar for dollar up to the maximum annual contribution per person. That's extremely good. So if you know anybody that works for Microsoft, chances are they've got a sizable 401k if they've been contributing. Now, one question that I've received a lot is, do I get a match if I roll over dollars from my IRA or an old 401k into my current company 401k? So let's imagine, just hypothetically, let's say you had $1 million old 401k that you wanted to roll over and consolidate into your new company's 401k, and they offered a 4% dollar for dollar match. You're not going to receive a match on funds that are rolled over from an old 401k into your new 401k. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. I remember years ago talking to one guy, and he was convinced that his company would match. And it was a very, very similar situation as I just described. And I said, well, I'm not calling you a liar, but I think it would be very, very unrealistic to expect your company to match 40 grand on that $1 million rollover. So 4% of $1 million is 40 grand. And he said, well, that's my understanding of how it works. So if you think your company is going to match dollars that you roll over from a traditional IRA or old 401k, I think you're going to be sadly mistaken and disappointed. They will match dollars coming out of your paycheck, your earnings that year only. And that's worth mentioning. If you do have old 401ks, you can do what's called a rollover into your current 401k. Taxes are not due as long as it's coded as a direct rollover, so you avoid all taxes. And it's a good way to consolidate 401ks as long as your current 401k is where you want to have your money, you're happy with it, it's a good value. And like I said, even IRAs can roll over to 401ks. It's a little bit of legwork, but in some cases it's worth it. I would say overall, what's much more common is rolling old 401ks over to what's called a rollover IRA. It works the same way, but the benefit of, in my eyes, the rollover IRA is you have total investment freedom. You've got to consider your costs that would be associated with the rollover IRA, but you can invest the dollars any way you want. You can decide on what tax withholding you want when it comes time to take those retirement withdrawals. Roth conversions, if you decided to do Roth conversions and it made sense for your situation, Roth conversions from a rollover IRA are very, very easy and very, very common with most IRA custodians. We do them for clients regularly at our firm, Retire Strong, and it's one form. You pick your tax withholding and what date that you want the Roth conversion to occur. And as long as the Roth IRA is already open, it's like I said, one form and it's done. Now, switching gears, one word of caution is in regards to 401k loans. So if you happen to have a 401k loan, one of the risks or one of the things to be aware of is if you were to get laid off or retire, that loan has to be paid back in a short amount of time or it becomes a taxable event. So you want to check on that to make sure you know what your 401k loan is and what that might be, what the tax implications of that might be should you retire or choose to separate from service or get laid off. Now, another thing to understand is once you retire or separate from service from that employer that offers the 401k, you are no longer allowed to take loans from your 401k balance. And you can't take a loan out on your IRA balance either. Those are not allowed. So one of the benefits to 401ks while you're still working is that loan provision. Some 401ks, not all, they do have loan provisions where you can take out a loan based on the balance of your 401k up to $50,000. That's the most you could ever take out. And then you pay yourself back with payments through your payroll. Now, one last thing, if you're one of those people that has company stock in your 401k, you need to alert your financial planner, if they are not already up to speed, that you do have a concentration in company stock. Because there's a tax strategy that you can use that's called net unrealized appreciation. And depending on how well the stock has done and how much you've contributed to it over the years and when you contributed to it, it might be a good idea to utilize this NUA, net unrealized appreciation. Again, it's all going to depend on how well the company stock has done, how much money you've contributed, and how much money you have invested in the company stock. Oftentimes, when we're reviewing 401ks and the company does allow company stock, there's a heavy concentration in company stock, and talk about a big risk factor, but it can be used for your advantage if you look at something like this tax strategy I mentioned. Sometimes companies will offer a discount if you purchase company stock. Like, for example, Lowe's a number of years ago, I don't know if they still do it, but they would offer a 15% discount. So you could buy Lowe's stock at 85 cents on the dollar. That's a pretty sweet deal. But I guess it all depends on, is that company a stock that you want to own? Does it have the qualities that make it a sound investment and a wise investment? Because not all companies are created equally. We've probably all worked for those companies that are maybe not run so well. And I wanted to switch gears for one moment because I would be remiss if I didn't mention something called a mega backdoor Roth. And essentially what this is for the people with a 401k, and your 401k provider may not allow this because many of them don't, but some do. And you'll want to check with your provider, your 401k provider, to see if this is allowed and even on the table for you to participate in. So for those people that are contributing to a Roth 401k and they're maxing it out, then if this is available to you and possible in your 401k, you could then contribute over and above the annual limit to what's called an after-tax 401k. And then you could do what's called a conversion and convert those dollars over to the Roth side, the Roth 401k. And the limit, if you're eligible to do this, if your 401k allows it, is $70,000 a year. And again, not all companies allow this, but it's worth checking into to see if it's even available for you. If it's not, maybe it's something you can suggest that they allow in the future. Because this is something, this mega backdoor Roth is becoming more and more popular or commonplace, if you will, on 401ks. We live in an ever-evolving world, so things are constantly changing, whether it's in regards to a 401k plan or something else. My issue with 401ks in general is there's no standard of excellence. Because how do we compare one company's 401k to another's 401k? I think there should be some type of means or measure where we could objectively look and compare one 401k to another to say what it offers to determine the quality of each 401k. Instead of sitting back here and subjectively saying, yeah, this one's pretty good, this one's okay, this one's above average, there really should be some objective means of ranking them or qualifying each 401k to show how they stack up. Now, for your 401k, the best thing you can do is, of course, ask the provider, the 401k provider, these questions that you might have, but also they offer a plan summary document. Now, this plan summary document will give you every detail you ever wanted to know about your 401k, and it's offered to all participants. So ask for that plan summary document. They can be very, very detailed and overwhelming and confusing. So your fiduciary financial planner can help answer questions and kind of read through it to better understand what's allowed, what's not allowed, and all the nuances of your specific 401k. Now, the last thing I'll leave you with that will really, really help some people, I think, is when it comes time to retire, sometimes the unused vacation or PTO time that gets paid out to you, there are some circumstances, there are some employers that allow, instead of it being paid out and you're taxed on that money, you can actually use that income, because it's going to be taxed as income, to contribute to your 401k, which might give you a tax deduction if you do the pre-tax 401k. So you want to check to see if this is even available to you, because a lot of times this vacation and PTO time can be sizable. We're talking, in some instances that we've experienced at our firm with clients, anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000. And if you can defer taxes on that income, in some situations, if it's allowed, it can make a lot of sense. So check into that ahead of time. When I retire, how's the vacation time, the PTO time, the sick time, how's that paid out? Can I use that money as a 401k contribution so I don't have to pay the taxes all at once? So that's my last tip for this episode. I hope this discussion today on 401ks has been helpful. Again, if you want more personalized advice, go to our website, retirestrongfa.com. We'd love to speak with you to see if we can help and are a good fit. I'll see you next time. And remember, always dream big.
Content in this material is for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. The content in this material does not necessarily reflect the views of LPL Financial. This is a hypothetical example and is not representative of any specific situation. Your results will vary. The hypothetical rates of return used do not reflect the deduction of fees and charges inherent to investing. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments might be appropriate for you, please consult your attorney, tax advisor, or financial planner prior to investing. This is a hypothetical example and is not representative of any specific investment. Your results may vary. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices mentioned are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance your overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect completely against market risk. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Traditional IRA account owners have considerations to make before performing a Roth IRA conversion. These primarily include income tax consequences on the converted amount in the year of conversion, withdrawal limitations from a Roth IRA, and income limitations for future contributions to a Roth IRA. In addition, if you are required to take a required minimum distribution, RMD, in the year you convert, you must do so before converting to a Roth IRA. This information is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized tax advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific tax issues with a qualified tax advisor. Fixed and variable annuities are suitable for long-term investing, such as retirement investing. Gains from tax-deferred investments are taxed as ordinary income upon withdrawal. Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals made prior to age 59 and a half are subject to a 10% IRS penalty tax, and surrender charges may apply. Variable annuities are subject to market risk and may lose value. Riders are additional guarantee options that are available to an annuity or life insurance contract holder. While some riders are part of an existing contract, many others may carry additional fees, charges, and restrictions, and the policyholder should review their contract before purchasing. Traditional IRA account owners have considerations to make before performing a Roth IRA conversion. These primarily include income tax consequences on the converted amount in the year of conversion, withdrawal limitations from a Roth IRA, and income limitations for future contributions to a Roth IRA. In addition, if you are required to take a required minimum distribution, RMD, in the year you convert, you must do so before converting to a Roth IRA. This information is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized tax advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific tax issues with a qualified tax advisor. Retire Strong Financial Advisors and LPL Financial are not endorsed by or affiliated with the United States Social Security Administration or any government agency. Retire Strong Financial Advisors and LPL Financial are not endorsed by or affiliated with the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services or any government agency.
Thank you for listening to the show today. Check us out at our website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. And if you want some help from Greg, submit your questions at the bottom of the page or sign up for a 30-minute retirement coaching session with Greg. We'll see you next week.